Hello everybody, it's the same day as the last video, which is Tuesday, day one of actual UK lockdown for the COVID-19. I did quite a lot this morning, including, well, if you watched the last video you know basically everything's been red oxided and is now drying. Excuse me. I've swept up the floor and I'm going to give this area up here bit more of a poking, trim off that sound deadening stuff, bulkhead insulation just like a few inches higher, probably up to that line there above the brake line. The brake line, I gave it a bit of a poke earlier and it hasn't rotted, so that's good because I can't be bothered to replace it. I will check it properly from above later as well, but I think it's okay. What I want to do, without having to take the exhaust off, because that's a pain, is trim that off, get that out of the way, make an assessment of how bad the rust is, clean it up with a die grinder, take some measurements relative to that hole of where the rust extends to, and then chop it out from the inside without chopping through the brake line. Sounds easy, doesn't it? We shall see. Oh my god, it's just full of water. That's quite unbelievable. Basically, the design of these SD1 bulkhead insulation panels changed over the years. Some of them, the foam is stitched into like a plastic bag. Now I've just put the knife through the bottom of the plastic bag and the whole thing is just pissing out water. So that's a bit of a surprise. I'm going to trim a bit more off and then hopefully I can move the whole of this panel away and wedge it out of the way. The good news is that I can feel up there is nice and smooth, which means it hasn't rusted. That bit there has a bit, but again it feels solid. Where the hole is, I think, is honestly the only bad bit. But we shall do a bit more trimming and I'll show you the results. Hopefully you can see up there what we're dealing with. We've got surface rust on that top bit and then a hole. The hole, that's easy to fix. I'm going to get in there with the finger sander again, or what do you call it, a power file, some people call them. Well, I think it's probably the correct name. So I'm going to clean all that off and then, as I said, get all of that back to nice metal, and then measure it, chop it out. I don't know how much of that was the back of my head and how much of it was car stuff, but get the idea. Basically, we've got rust there, well, rust everywhere, but my excavations would suggest we've got good metal at about that bit and down here, so we're going to need to chop all of that out, then down across here, along there, up there to that flange. The flange is part of the chassis rail and it's largely missing, which is annoying, but in a way it doesn't matter so much because we can weld directly onto the top of that and it's 2mm thick, so that's good. That bit up there, I can't get in there with the power file, but I'm going to go and get the chisel and stab it a bit relentlessly. Oh, got B in here I think. Yeah, I'm kind of happy I've come up with a plan, so I'm going to cut. Fuck me, that is a massive bee. Look at that. Why would it come in here? Anyway, yeah, gonna chop that out, and then I might have a poke at that bit from inside the car. In fact, why don't we do that now? Let's do that together, ladies and gentlemen. Weapon of choice, chisel, lamp. So we're looking at the back side of that bit, and that we've got, oh dear, damn it. Cock and balls. Didn't want to have to do that, but it looks like we're going to have to chop down to about here, I think it was, up to there, up through there, and then probably right up to here, and then across. I might go away and cry a little bit now. The good news is the rest of this bulkhead area is good, which they're not always. Bummer. So those are the first preliminary cuts. They're probably the first of many. I've deliberately cut incredibly close to and trying to pick up on what was the flange for the old chassis rail. I can feel the chassis rail just there, and that's all good metal. So hopefully when I put my patch in here, I'll have enough room to run a bead on the outside from the underside of the car along there too. That should all be the rust cut out. There might be a tiny bit more in there, but certainly we're on pretty much solid metal all the way along. Unfortunately, I had to put the grinder through there, or the cutting disc I should say, through there just to be able to chop into there nicely, but it's not a big deal because I can just weld that up from the top in a moment. I say in a moment, this might be tomorrow now, I don't know. It's always a bit of a kick in the balls when you think you're making really good progress and then you find rot and rust. But yeah, that's all pretty good. That's all. Yeah, we'll need to just nip a bit more off of there. I'm conscious that I don't want to get to a point where I'm not being able to get in there with the MIG welder. I'm happy that that brake pipe is solid. It wasn't actually touching anything. It's in free air, so there's no corrosion on that, which is excellent news. But yeah, I will have to probably cut that bit out there a little bit higher. And actually, no, that's really good. I won't bother doing any more with that. I might straight line that bit just to make the patch easier, and then chop a bit more out of there because I've actually cut into that enough as it is. Why don't I do that right now? Bigger hole. Good. I'm happy with that. Let's go and look from the other side again. I really need to get another light. Because this thing is big, awkward, cumbersome, you name it. Ticks a lot of boxes. So that's our hole. Yes, there's some tiny bits of surface rust in and around there, but should be alright. I'll go find another bit for the die grinder and just... Actually, that bit doesn't look so clever, does it? There's two skins here, and I think we might have developed some rust between the two. Yeah, I'm going to go find another die grinder bit and attack that whole area and see what happens. Just so you get an idea of tools again. These were carbide rotary files, different profiles, top Chinese quality. You get different shapes. And I just bang it in the end of an Axminster multi-purpose tool. It's basically a Dremel, but though these things are really good. It's not like those crappy stones which either break, delaminate, get fired off across the place. These don't come apart. What they can do is come out of here, which you have to, you know, always wear goggles, but they're really good for chomping through metal in tight corners where you can't get in there with a grinder or you don't want to. And I use it for kind of exploratory hacking when, yeah, as I said, access is difficult. Well, you might have noticed the hole has got rather bigger. That's to ensure that I'm actually getting all of the rust out. That's a template patch, so I'm going to go and make that now. This area is a problem because I can't get in there nicely to make a nice job of it. Basically, my current plan is to get the patch made and then with a pair of pliers try and form this so that it wants to sit in there, and then what I'll do is what I've done previously, and when I'm welding it in and I get to that point and the metal's hot and ductile, I'll just smash it until it forms the right sort of shape. It's not ideal, but this isn't a concourse restoration, as I said many a time, and quite honestly, some people wouldn't have even bothered doing this. They would have thought, right, well, no one's going to see that, and they would have toshed a whole load of filler in it or something. I don't know. But that's my plan, so I shall continue doing that. So I've pretty much made my patch. It's one of those jobs where already I'm not sure this is going to look the neatest, but it's going to be a suck it and see, weld it where it touches, beat the hell out of it, weld it some more, beat the hell out of it, and then feel embarrassed about it, and then think, meh, oh well, it is what it is, as my good friend Jason would say. So there's enough bits there that make me think I could at least start snotting it on and then beat it to shape as I go. That's what I'm going to do. Are you working? Yes, you are. Right, hopefully you get the idea. That is now largely cleaned up. I'm going to hammer those joints shut and then maybe put a couple of blobs of weld on. Right up there you can see a couple of pieces of MIG wire that have come through. So I'm going to try and get up there and snap them off. Unfortunately I can't get up there with the die grinder or the... Actually I might be able to get up there with the die grinder. The reason I stopped using the die grinder was because the bit fired off, came out and disappeared somewhere, and I kind of gave up on it. But it is a bit pointier and scratchier, so I'll go and put a new bit in it and try that. Definitely having trouble with the camera, still got no idea what has or hasn't been recorded. But anyway, that's all that bit cleaned up. So I'm going to red oxide it. This is the underside of that chassis rail. I just gave it a bit of a dusting down with the grinder as well, or the flat wheel thing. It looks really nice. So yeah, red oxide in there, and then I'll probably call it a day because I'm tired. Done. Right, good. It's been a long day. It's probably only about 4:30, 5 o'clock now, but I started, I don't know what time I started really. But I'm tired. I might pop down later tonight and seam seal it. I might not. I can't decide yet. It would be nice to do it. It just makes it look a bit more finished, and I can tick off basically this side of the car from there all the way through to about there, which would be nice. And then it's just what to do here really. I just like that wing the way it is. I'm kind of tempted to do a horror bodge show, which is just I mean, you could even just shove the fiberglass filler in it and then rub it down, and yeah, it's a bodge, but it just means I get to keep all of this, which I like. So yeah, I'll still be thinking about that tonight while I'm lying in bed.